Thank you, Chris. I didn't realize you were such a busy guy. Wow. And recruiting season ticket holders tonight. That's awesome. We welcome all of you to become Blues season ticket holders. I promise you it's going to be a great 50th year. All right, our final speaker before our panel discussion, I met him earlier, Dan Brennan of USA Hockey. Dan, come on up. He's also the GM of the Paralympic team. And I know a couple of years ago, there was an exhibition after a Blues game, a couple of sled hockey teams. And I'll just say honestly, watching those gentlemen perform, and I've been around hockey all my life, it was, they are the most courageous, talented hockey players on the planet. They really are. It's amazing to me what they can do, and I understand Dan has a couple of his athletes here tonight. Let's welcome Dan Brennan.
Hope you'll be clapping like that when I'm done. I want to thank Missouri Hockey. I want to thank Larry Boyd and Doug Dietz for doing a tremendous job. I've never seen Doug Dietz in a suit before. It's very impressive. I also want to thank the about 5 or 6 coach-in-chiefs that we have in the audience right now. If they could please stand up right now. Our district coach-in-chiefs, I know there's 4 or 5 of them somewhere. Ty, Jack Witt, David Hoff, okay. Christian Kelling, I believe, is here. All right, these are the guys in different districts that just do an incredible amount of work for USA Hockey, so I want to thank them. I want to thank our national coach-in-chief, Mike McMillan. He'll be speaking here tomorrow, I believe. He just came back from Sturgis, and if you look at his salad he's working right now, you can tell. Mike, you should stand up and show off that beautiful coif of yours. Anyone who bumps into him, feel free to call him Snake McMillan, because he got here on his Harley, and it's great to see him. Good job, Mac. Okay, real quick before I talk a little bit about our Paralympic team, to all you coaches out there, I can't thank you enough. You know, you're 1 degree from the player. You're the guys you're the men and women that really make our game go. And thank you so much for all your efforts. Thank you so much for being here. It means so much to all our youth players across the country. You guys have no idea what an impact that you have on our players. I want to tell you that I always look at coaching, because I still get to do it with our Paralympic team. I'm the GM of the team, and I get to help coach. And we're really not in the coaching business. You know, a lot of guys that think their 70-2 record in Pee Wees is going to catapult them into the show. It doesn't always work like that. I know the St. Louis Blues organization might not be looking for you yet until you coach at the higher levels. But I really think we're in the self-esteem business. And I had a great talk with Larry Boyd at dinner last night about that, and it dawned on me that, you know, we're responsible for a real positive impact on our players, but we can also be responsible for a real negative one. Don't forget things like how important it is for 11, 10-year-old to wear a hockey jacket. Okay, when I got my first one, I thought, you know, okay, the girlfriend's next for sure, and then a car. It didn't necessarily work out that way for me, but I all of a sudden had self-esteem, and it's an incredible thing that as we get older, we forget about those things that are real important to our young athletes. I'm up here to kind of be the bad guy too. I'm the one who gets to grade all your level 5 projects, okay? And if you're from Canada, your level 5 projects. Okay? So what I want to say to you is take the time and do it right. I had to send 5 back 2 years ago, and it's only because someone filled out their practice plans on a 3-ring piece of paper and drew their own rink diagrams. They weren't exactly Picasso's either. So take the time, you know, if you guys look in your bag, there's something in there that will give you a hint. You have rink diagrams. Please use those when you hand in your practice plans, okay? It would go a long way, and it would help me from not having to mail them back to you and say, I need you to put in a little bit better effort. In the past, we used to do a thesis that was probably, you know, 10 to 15 pages, and it was a real grind. And what we found at USA Hockey is once the coaches in the past made such a great effort, we had to turn around and say, well, what are we going to do with them now? Chuck Gridley, who's a coach-in-chief in New York, gave me a call one day, and we kicked it around, and he came up with a great idea, and that was, we're going to have you write a one-page paper after you've coached your team for a month and write down what the deficiencies you see in your team. Once you've established that, you're going to put together 7 full 1-hour practice plans to help conquer whatever those problems were, whether it's offensive play or defensive play or skill development, whatever it might be. And then you're going to turn around after you've done those practice plans and write a one-page report on all the solutions you came up with and what kind of success you had after that. The reason it benefits everyone is once I get all those drills, I pass them off to Matt Cunningham, who's responsible for our coaches app. And now we have more drills to put on the app, which you guys might even one day might click that on and find 1 or 2 of the drills that you've submitted to USA Hockey. So it's a win-win for everybody, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. It's a lot different than sitting down and writing a 15-page paper. If anyone has any questions on this, please send me an email at USA Hockey, louvero@usahockey.org. And I'm happy to help you out. No, danb@usahockey.org if you have any questions on that. Now, moving along, it's a real honor for me. The greatest part of my job at USA Hockey, and I've been with this team for 10 years, is to help guide our Paralympic players, our national sled hockey program. And we're very fortunate tonight. One of the players who's supposed to be here is on his way. He's a local product named Steve Cash. He's a goalie. He's been our goalie since 2006, and he's only 26 years old. So he's an amazing young man. For those of you who have never heard of Steve Cash here in St. Louis, in 2010, he played 5 games in the Paralympics and had 5 shutouts. He's an incredible young man, and when he gets here, we'll introduce him to you. But we do have another player who's here in attendance, Josh Pauls, who goes to school at Lindenwood University. I've had the pleasure of cutting Josh twice so far in his career, and I'm sure when I bring him up here, he won't mention that. Josh, can you pick it up a bit? Let's go. That's better. Josh doesn't have legs, so I feel real good about that. Slow down, kid. Slow down. Quick story, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Josh just for a second. I know you guys want to hear all our NHL guys, which I'm thrilled to hear as well. Come on up, buddy. We were in Japan in 2011, was it, Josh? Probably. And Josh fell off the bus.
That was Norway.
Oh, sorry, Norway. Let's stay focused here, okay? So he falls off the bus, and I talked this way around him. It's not my fault. They created this in me, all right? I thought it was going to make me a better person working with this team, but it's been the complete opposite. So Josh fell out of the bus due to icy conditions on the ramp, and he cut the top of one of his nubs, and it was bleeding pretty good. So our medical crew picked him up, and we put him into the medical room beside our locker room, and I was real concerned. I thought, he was going to have to need a lot of stitches and probably miss the game. And so I walked in all concerned, and I looked right at him and said, "Geez, Josh, are you okay, buddy? Do you think you're able to go? Do we need to take you to a hospital?" And he looks me in the eye and says, "Dan, I just tore my ACL." You little prick, Josh. Anyway, on behalf of our team, Josh Pauls.
I just want to thank Charlie Sheen for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I also do not speak for our Paralympic sled team. Any stupid comments I say are purely from me. But I mean, Dan is right. He has cut me a couple times, and he cut me right before the Paralympics in 2010, that summer before, and I ended up working my way back on the team, and I went in for my exit interview right before the Paralympics when we still had to cut 3 players, and it was probably one of the coolest things he said. He was like, "Hey Josh, what are you looking so nervous for? I got good news for you this time." And that was weird because to actually make the team, really, really, really crazy. But I've had a chance to, Dan says he coaches. He is the general manager, and he does get on the ice and nail goalies in the head during warm-ups. He also stands on the bench sometimes and yells at us to change or do stuff better. But that's what most guys do. Hopefully he'll sit in on a couple of these meetings. But I am really fortunate to be here. I am really fortunate to be here, and I'm really glad that you guys are here. St. Louis is an absolutely fantastic city. I fell in love with it. Over the 5 years I've been here, I'm actually looking to stay here now. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I'm about ready to give my left leg for a season ticket to the Blues, just so I can buy the Winter Classic tickets, but then that's my right leg too, so it's going to put me down a few legs, but it'll totally be worth it in the end, I hope. I mean, my legs might get a little cold, but hey, it happens. But I really had the chance to work with some of these coaches out here. I mean, Lee Costley, David Hoff, Dan, Brennan, Mike McMillan. I mean, they've all coached, whether it's development camp or whether it's the local sled team. And I mean, sled hockey is not really different aside from, you're going to become a worse person at the end. You're going to start instituting rules like the walkers only van because you want to get back to the hotel quicker to get in first lines for meals. But I mean, sled hockey really is growing, whether it's the St. Louis area, and I mean, the Blues have been extremely supportive. We've been able to play at a couple fantasy camps, throw on a scrimmage, and we're talking to them right now about hopefully, hint, hint, nudge, judge, go play on the ice at Busch. But I mean, it's been a great, fantastic opportunity to be able to play the game I love. And to just get that feeling of being in a locker room and having a team I can call my own that I wouldn't get in any other sport, that I'd actually have to run or use any lower body thing because that's just not going to happen. But it is a really fantastic game, and you're seeing sled hockey get integrated. I played in a fundraiser game in Ithaca, New York, up at Cornell, where I was playing against guys like Dustin Brown and Joe Neuendijk, and that was a really cool moment of inclusion. And then I got the chance to coach at the National Team Development Program selection camp for the U17s, and that was something that I had never been a part of, and to see sled hockey gaining national prominence and being on TV in the Paralympics, it's something that's really a great thing because, I mean, like everybody else, we are hockey players. We're just really bad people. So now I'll turn the mic over to Dan. I really want to hear these NHL guys speak, so I'm going to wrap this up. Dan, keep it short, okay?
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up too, but I do want to clarify just one thing real quick. When the sled goalie's in the net, they're no more than, their head is 3 feet high. So they're going to get hit in the head, okay? Let's get that. Anyway, I'm going to turn the mic over to Mr. Kelly again, and I want to thank all our NHL guys for being here tonight. We really look forward to hearing you speak and your thoughts. And once again, to all you coaches, have a great weekend. Have a great time. Get to know each other. Share ideas, and really enjoy the weekend, okay? Cheers.
Thank you, Dan. These guys are funny. They should stay up here for a few more minutes. Hey, Kelly Chase has handed me a parking ticket. If you parked in the garage, somebody dropped the ticket. So I'll leave it up here because if you don't have the ticket, it might cost you $1,000 to get out of that garage. Otherwise, it'll probably cost you about $5. So anyways, there's a ticket somebody dropped that I'll leave up here. All right, time for our panel discussion. And I want to introduce our moderator. I don't know if he's ever been called a moderator before in his life. That's probably flattering. But Kelly Chase spent 11 years in the NHL, over 400 games, over 2,000 minutes in penalties. I guess he moderated in his own way. Kelly spent 8 years with the St. Louis Blues. During his tenure here, he did so much in the community, continues to do so much to this day. As a matter of fact, he was awarded the King Clancy Memorial Trophy for his charity work back in 97-98. Also won the Jack Buck Award in 08 for his enthusiasm and dedication to St. Louis sports. Of course, he's been the color commentator on KMOX since 2000. Let's welcome to the stage Mr. Kelly Chase.
Thanks, John. So most of those stats are right. It was 12 years, not 11, but whatever. I played for 3 teams in the NHL. I scored for 2 of them. So I wasn't the greatest player, But I am going to start off telling you a story about somebody that made an impact on my life, because that's really what you're here for. I remember talking to an official one time, and I called him over to talk to help me out with a kid, and he said, "It's not my problem." And I said, "No, it's all our problems. We're going to try and teach the kids the right way to play." And I don't know that I was taught exactly that by this lesson that I learned, but the guy that made an impact on me was Gordie Howe. And I tell this story at a lot of speaking engagements that I go to. I went to my first training. I wasn't very good, as you guys have probably figured out, hence the stats, right? But I was fortunate enough to play a long time and get a chance, and I wasn't drafted. So when you're not drafted in the NHL, you're kind of, especially then there was 12 rounds, I wasn't very good. And I'm like, well, I just wanted a chance. So I got an opportunity to go to camp in Hartford as a young guy, and I got to the airport in Toronto on my way to camp, and Gordie Howe was standing there. Now, I played in Saskatoon. Gordie's from Saskatoon. I'm a Saskatchewan guy. He is. And it was like, I don't know, it was like the most impressionable person I could have ever met in my life standing in front of me, and I didn't know what to say. And for those of you that know me, that's tough. I mean, not very often I'm at a loss for words. So I walked up to the gate, and I finally said, "Mr. Howe, my name is Kelly Chase. I'm going to Hartford. I know you work for the team as an advisor, and I just want to tell you, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for the game of hockey and for us kids in Saskatchewan." And I just kept going on and on. I probably repeated myself 5 times, and he said, "Sit down, lad." So I sat down, and they, in the interim, canceled our flight. And they called us up to the podium, and they were giving us vouchers for hotel rooms because we were going to go the next day. And the lady says, "Are you two together?" And Gordie says, "Yes, ma'am." Now, I could have went home that very moment, and it would have been worth it because I was rooming with Gordie Howe. I hadn't been 5 minutes into going to my training camp, and I'm rooming with the greatest player in my mind that ever played. So we got to the hotel. And we went downstairs, and we had a bite to eat, and he said something to me that it made an impact on me. He said, "Make sure they know who you are." Because nobody really went out on a limb for you. The scouts didn't draft you. They didn't take a chance on you. They're filling out the 4-team roster, and you got a chance for whatever reason. You got a chance, so now you got to show them and make sure they know who you are. If you hit somebody a couple times and score a goal, they want to say, "Well, the hitter scored." Or if you got to skate down the ice naked, take your clothes off, and when you score, they go, "The naked guy scored." He goes, "You want to make sure they know who you are." So I said, "All right, Mr. Howe." On my first day of camp, I got into a little scrap with this guy, and I did pretty well. And I played the game as hard as I could in the afternoon. I played my second session, and I got into a little tussle with a 12-year veteran, Billy Root. And I did really well. And I'm right off the farm from Saskatchewan, so I have no idea what I've got myself into, okay? But I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And we all room with a veteran player, and I'm rooming with Paul Lawless. And the next morning, I get up, and he says, "Hey, kid, you just be careful out there today." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." Couple of tussles, done pretty good. Well, I got out on the ice, and the puck dropped. Now, I wouldn't write any of these details down for any of the kids you're coaching nowadays, but I will tell you what happened. I turned back when we won the draw and faced forward, and this guy punched me in the nose. And he beat the hell out of me, basically, without me even having a chance. I didn't know what hit me. And I got to the bench, and I was embarrassed. And I had my head down, and I was feeling like I'd been taken advantage of because it wasn't fair, and I didn't realize life wasn't fair, and things weren't fair, and training camps and all that stuff. Well, finally, I got a little bit of gumption up, and I started kind of yelling at the guy on the bench, and Tex Evans was coaching, and he told me, Jack said, "Sit down, kid." So I sat for the first half of the 2 sessions. And when the Zamboni came out, I was so embarrassed. This guy was leaning down on the net with Steve Weeks having a little conversation that I trailed the Zamboni down. And when it turned the corner, I was standing there. I proceeded to club this guy over the head with my stick and give him what was left of it and drop my gloves and kind of tune him in. Well, I was 18 years old. I had no man strength. And I realized about 30 seconds after this happened that I had just done something that was going to get me in a whole bunch of trouble. Not just with the veteran players, with the coaches, with everybody. And I didn't know exactly how to handle the anxiety, but I could tell I was in trouble, and I was. There was guys like Sean Cronin and Paul McDermott and Shane Churla, they all came after me in the second half of this scrimmage, and they handed it to me pretty good, and I just couldn't feel worse. But I got in the locker room and I showered, and I could tell my own team didn't really want to talk to me even. Where do we find this lunatic? But I walked down the hallway at Avon O Farms, and I was walking out to the bus, and this big old arm came around me right in front of the bus, and it was Gordie Howe. He said, "Hey kid, they freaking know who you are now, I'll tell you that." So I was lucky enough to moderate, as John said, Gordie Howe's last public appearance in Saskatoon. Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Hull, Brett Hull, Dennis Hull, Mark Howe, Lanny McDonald, Tiger Williams, all these great players were there, Marty McSorley, everybody that had come to this thing, and I got to moderate it. And me getting a chance to be the host of that was a little like Stompin' Tom Connor hosting the Beatles. Probably shouldn't have been there, but I was. And I told that story, and Gordie at the time, he had just had his stem cell, and he had come back around and kind of revived him. And he had tears running down his face, and he gives me the thumbs up. And I was sitting there, I was like, holy cow, Gordie Howe's going to, I can see the tears, so it's a center stage, so I'm going to get behind it, so I don't really see him. And I realize that a lot of people are emotional because they can see Gordie. But the funny thing is just a lot like you guys, you never know who you're going to make an impression on. You never know who it is. He didn't know whether I was ever going to play one more minute in the NHL. But he took time to, make sure everybody on that bus knew that I was his guy. So when you're around these kids, you never know what the hell you're going to make an impression for or how it might turn out. But you do have a big say in their lives. So make sure it's a difference.
Well done, Chaser. Kelly, I was broadcasting for the Blues back when you came up from Peoria, I think it was 90, and you came to camp with a guy named Tony Twist. And is it fair to say that you two terrorized training camp back in 1990? Is that accurate?
That was not by design. When I got up in the morning, I read where Tony Twist had done an interview and said, well, we know why we're here, and we are going to take these guys' jobs. And I got down at breakfast, I said, hey, what are you, Don King? I don't need you setting shit up for me. I can find my own fights, and I'm not even growing up yet.
Two of the toughest guys ever, Kelly Chase and Tony Twist. Anyways, let's get on with the discussion. And Kelly's our moderator. Let's meet our panelists. We're going to start with a guy that I've known since the mid-'80s, a former first overall pick by the Colorado Rockies back in '79, played 15 years in the NHL, including 6 with St. Louis, and then unfortunately got traded. But to his benefit, he won a Stanley Cup with Calgary in '89, and also at the end of his career won a Stanley Cup for our great friend Jacques Demers and the Montreal Canadiens back in 1993. He's been retired since '94 and is currently the player development coach of the Canadiens, Rob Ramage. Rammer, good to see you again. Our next guest is a gentleman who just retired a few years ago. He played 15 years in the NHL, including 10 here in St. Louis. At the end of his career, he also won a Stanley Cup with our friends from Chicago in 2013. Jamal Mayers was a member of the Blackhawks Cup champion team in 2013. Let's welcome back Jamal Mayers. Our next guest played 18 years in the NHL, including 9 in St. Louis, had a pretty good career. A Norris Trophy, a Hart Trophy, elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2015, also won a Stanley Cup, this with Anaheim back in '07, played in 4 Olympics and won 2 gold medals, and is currently with the NHL Department of Player Safety. Mr. Chris Pronger. And was probably suspended, 4 or 5 times, so his new job is right up his alley.
Sometimes it takes a criminal to catch a criminal.
Exactly, Chaser. And last but not least, over 1,200 games in the NHL, a 19-year career, stops in Winnipeg, Phoenix, St. Louis, and Atlanta. He's only one of 5 U.S.-born players to score 500 goals and one of 6 to have over 1,000 points. He also played in 4 Olympics and was a member of the U.S. gold medal winning team at the 96 World Cup. And his son is a pretty good player as well. Matthew was just drafted by Calgary, I believe 6th overall in the last draft. Big Walt, Keith Tkachuk. So there's the panel. Oh, I'm sorry. My goodness. Right. My apologies. I actually talked to the guy before the evening, and I'm getting old, I guess, Walt. Great friend of ours in St. Louis, Tim Peel, has been a referee for 19 years in the NHL and has made his home here for most of that time. He's a New Brunswick native and just flew back home from PI from a family vacation, so he underwent a lot of stress today, like he does in his nighttime job. Timmy, I'm sorry, but welcome to the stage, Tim Peel. He'll never let me forget that, will he? Pilsy, good to see you.
First call of the year goes against us. You know why.
Exactly. All right, Chaser, it's all yours. Gentlemen, have some fun tonight.
All right. Thanks, John. What a great job John does all the time at these things. Well, Walt, what are your thoughts? I mean, why don't you start off?
Well, my thoughts are, but I can't read so well, but from BU. What does that say on the podium there, right here? USA Hockey. Canadian, 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 and Canadian. You shitting me?
What do you think this
How does that, in the first round? Chaser, how many Canadians are out there?
What the hell do you think there's 6 kids drafted this year for?
Speak
No,
slow.
you know what, yeah.
Chaser, speak slow.
We're going to have to speak slow for the Canadians today. Okay, we'll do that. We'll keep it down. No, listen, all of us have gone through different experiences to be able to play in the NHL. First thing I got to do before we do that, I want to recognize there's a couple alumni here that I saw. At St. Louis, any given time, there could be any of about 40 of us around, but I did see Rick Zombo and Mike Zook here. Guys at the back, boys, am I missing anyone else? And I did see Johnny Van Beesburg here too. I know you probably spoke already, and I'm telling you something you already know, but if there's any of our other alumni here, part of a good fraternity, so we want to say hello to them. But we've all had different experiences, and Rob, I'm going to start with you because you came through and have had to watch the era of, where it was almost, whip, 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 and now you got to manage with kids' gloves, and you're in that role.
Yeah. Well, Chaser, I guess you're saying I'm the oldest guy on the panel
Well, that's
here.
what I was getting
Which
to.
I am.
That was the nicest way of saying that.
But in Walt, my son has worn the Stars and Stripes and won a World Junior with the U.S. I'm very proud of him for that. Yeah, Chaser, it's changed. We all know that. It's you mentioned Gordie Howe. I made an impression with him too. I ate his elbow as a rookie with the Birmingham Bulls. I got to play against Gordie. But my coach then was John Brophy. And it was fire and brimstone. And he was a screamer, which most of our coaches were back then. And that doesn't work with today's player, today's kids. They want information, and they want you to, they want to know that you care about them. And that's just a human trait. There's nothing wrong with that. Society's changed. And so we have to adapt and adjust with that. And it's no different. I'm, as was mentioned, development coach for the Montreal Canadiens. So I work with all their young defensemen that are not in the NHL. And it's still a great group. They're not jaded yet. They still want to learn. But they do want to know that you care, and they want a lot of information. And so that's the balance as coaches that you have. How much information do you give them, and how much do you let them go out and learn? And that's what I'm finding with so many of our players that come. Very skilled guys, but they don't know the game very well because we've given them so much. We micromanage every aspect of the game. So a lot of times I tell them, you're on the bench, watch the game. When you're at home, don't watch highlights, watch the game. Watch the guy who's playing your position and try and learn it that way.
Jamal, you're trying to, Chris Zimmerman had just talked about that a little bit, about the growth of the game stuff. But you got to find a way to engage kids and get them to love the game. You're working in that aspect of our game now with the league and with the Chicago Blackhawks. And do you see that there's sort of a way to pull kids in?
Yeah, I think the real challenge is that there's so many skills involved in playing the game. You know, skating, stick handling, shooting, passing, vision, all while you're skating. And
I missed a couple of those.
a lot of times when kids are introduced to the game, there's a lot of attrition, I believe, because they lose confidence in themselves because there's only one puck out there. I think that trying to slow things down and break down the skill sets required to play the game has helped. And a lot of instances we've used off the ice and showing them how to do stick handling, different things. A lot of things that you can get better off the ice has certainly helped, and then translate them, because some of them may be poor skaters or have terrible hands or the other way around. And if you can kind of simplify it and break it all down, we found that we've had a lot of success in getting kids to stay engaged in the game because they are improving in different areas and they don't lose interest.
Peelsy, does that work with the young guys talking to them on the ice?
Yeah, it does, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to officiating is communication with the coaches. And I was doing a clinic in Canada earlier this summer, and there's a stat out there that 70% of officials don't come back after their first year, and that's sad, and it's a disturbing stat. And I hear people wanting to blame you guys and wanting to blame the parents on the reason that they don't come back. And to be honest with you, I disagree with that. And I was talking to Stephen Wacom, who's our director of officiating in the NHL, and I think that that's unfair. I don't think that the blame is on the coaches, because what they're saying is the abuse that the officials take from the coaches and from the fans, and that's why these players don't come back, or the officials don't come back. And I think that the onus needs to be on us, on USA Hockey, whether Hockey Canada, because I see it when I go and watch games here in Chesterfield, is we need to match the skill set of the officials with the skill set of your game. We can't have a Bantam A refereeing a midget AAA game. And that's the biggest thing that I hear from the parents is, and from the coaches, is they feel that there's a lack of effort. And I don't think that it's a lack of effort. I just think that the skill set isn't matched up to the quality of the hockey players. So our job is to recruit better athletes. Just a quick story. We just promoted 6 officials to the NHL this year from the minor leagues, and 3 of them played major junior hockey in the US and Canada. So our philosophy has changed from 20 years ago, where the officials were the players the players that weren't that good at playing hockey, and Walt always made that very clear to me that's why I became a referee. No. But saying that, it's also important for the coaches to give these officials, make them feel that they're safe on the ice, and not to berate them, because the 16 players in front of you, if that's what they're hearing and seeing all the time, the chances are those players, when they get finished playing their hockey careers, aren't going to want to get into officiating, because that's all that they've heard. So I was honest when I told you I don't blame the coaches or the parents. I blame the skill sets. So,
Browns, you've had an opportunity to work on that side of it now. Now, you were a little bit, I'd say maybe liberal with the stick.
There's a lot of gray areas.
A lot of gray areas out there. Of course there is, Chris. I mean, what's being on, tell me something that was your first, like, oh, I got this job now moment.
I'll be honest with you, the game has changed quite a bit from when I first started to now, but I think the biggest thing, just my first supplementary discipline call is just hearing the player talk and, okay, yeah, I hear you, sure. Now what about this, and what about this, and what about this? You saw that, huh? Yeah, I did. So, no, it's with all the video and the 17 different angles that you have now, it's pretty hard to get away with anything out there. When I started, there was one referee, maybe 2 cameras, and a lot of gray areas out in the ice. So it was a little bit more liberal back then, but
So you're saying when we were in Hartford, they weren't paying as much attention?
exactly.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
With Chris, it wasn't how many penalties you were going to call against him in a game. It was which ones you were going to call, because there were 2 or 3 on every shift, and I'd say to him, I say, Prongs, you got to ease up on that guy in front of the net. He goes, Peels, he's a rookie. I'm just breaking him into the league. I'm like, I understand, but you just broke your stick over the guy's back. So just
Bad stick.
Yeah, it was a weak stick.
They went down fiberglass. Well, you've been a part of now
Welcome
watching.
to America, by the way.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, we're going to slow the question down for you a little bit.
Yeah,
Slow down. Okay, you've seen the evolution of the kids. I mean, it started with some of our guys. And first of all, you know, there's a lot of great coaches that are here that are St. Louis coaches that have helped in the growth of our game in St. Louis. So we're not leaving them out or by any means. If I happen to say something about, you know, we're proud of, that includes all of you, not just the alumni that are here as well, but there is a group of alumni that kind of got into helping out to start the education process of our game, I think, and stayed in the city and became more involved, and they were in Rob's era. And I think the real definitive part of where we can be and where we are is what happened this year in the draft with the 5 kids in the first round, 6 kids being drafted. And you know, I know Jeff Brown, not enough times his name can come up because he started with that group of kids when they were little and had them all the way through, as did Walt. What was it about that group, Walt, of kids for that 3-year period that just, you know, made a difference?
Well, first, jumping back to what you said, when you have guys like, you know, Jeff and Al McInnes, and this is for all coaches. I mean, you have to, you know, use each other. Everybody wants to get better. So when we got involved in coaching, I would watch a Rammer practice, Rob Rammers, you know, Basil McRae, a Jeff Brown, and Al McInnes. But with this group, from day one, it was nothing but skill. Skill, skill, skill. Skating, passing, stick handling, you know, and then we threw in the odd compete battle. But it was a special group. Ever since they were young, they got better and better. Not only them, the other kids around them got better. But we didn't do anything out of the ordinary. You know, like I said, I learned from Brownie. Brownie was a heck of a skills guy. And we just impounded the skill, learned the game. Like Rob said, you know, I know my guys went home and watched NHL Network. That was right before school. They picked up a lot on that. But, you know, you try to keep it simple for these kids, and you always keep them moving. You don't want to settle down and waste time unless they're doing it wrong. But that's all we did. There's no real secret. We just did a lot of stick handling, head up, footwork, you know, and then you throw them a little compete drill at the end. And I did that with the kids, and Jordan James was the head coach. I was the assistant. And we did that all the way up till Bantams. I hardly ever worked on a power play. Well, I had Lou Cunnin, Matthew Tkachuk, you know, Clayton Keller, Logan Brown. It's like telling Al McInnes and Chris Pronger, you know, what to do on a power play. You just let them do it. But we hardly worked on that stuff. And, you know, unless you can skate and stick handle with your head up, you know, you can't do the other things. So that's what we kind of did every practice. And, you know, I seen it work. I seen us outskill guys. We go to certain places north of the border. You play them in a tournament. They might have had better players. But at the end of the day, we beat them because the guys were taught the right way. They learned the skills of the game. And, you know, they didn't have to go around and run around and finish in every check. You want to keep the kids hungry. They all love the Sidney Crosby, the Patrick Kanes. Let them do it. Let them do it, Let them learn. That's how you learn the game. And that's what we did. And, I had some great guys coaching with us, with me to even help me. And I learned every day. I learned a lot from Basil McRae, from Brownie, so.
I remember being at the rink one time, and I was standing by Rob, and St. Louis was playing Wisconsin AAA, and I didn't know who they were playing at the time. I was still playing, and we had just finished our practice, and our practice facility was out there, and they were playing. And all of a sudden, Basil's yelling, and the official blows the whistle, and Basil steps out on the ice, and he's kicking a guy out of the rink. And I said to Rammer, I said, "Who are you guys playing?" And he goes, "Wisconsin." I go, "Man, I was on Basil's line as a left wing. I knew how big he was and how scared guys could be of him, but I'm like, man, I'll tell you, Basil's got some nerves kicking one of those Wisconsin parents out of the rink." Rammer goes, "That parent's from his team." I go, "What?" He goes, "He doesn't let them yell at the kids. He's done. He's out." And after I'm talking to Basil, and Basil says, he comes over, he goes, "Hey, I don't want him yelling at the referee. If they yell at the referee, the parents, the kid's going to think he can. If I do it," because one of the things Basil was most proud of is he'd never taken a bench minor. And he goes, he said, I just know what's going to happen. It's going to be 3-3. I'm acting like an ass, so the kid thinks he can act like an ass. So it might not happen this game, but the next game, and then when it's 3-3, we get dinged with a penalty because I can't shut my mouth and be respectful to the officials, and we're going to be down a guy, and that's what's going to happen. So he threw one of his parents out of the rink in the middle of a game. So, but it was a great lesson for me, as you said, watching him operate. And Rammer, he'll talk about that.
Yeah, Basil was a great coach, a great mentor to all of us as coaches and to his kids. And this was a guy that, same type of penalty minutes as Chaser, well over 2,000, and made his career as an NHL player as a really tough guy. He didn't coach that way at all. He wanted skill, skill, skill. He saw where the game was moving. He was ahead of the curve in that regard. And when I first came back in '94, I got involved with the AAA program, and we had to go to Detroit. We were in a league. They wouldn't come down here and play St. Louis. They didn't want to come down and play us. We were brutal. So we took that to heart. So Baz started working on the skills, got his teams pretty good, and would start going up to Detroit and beat them. And then he'd go north of the border. And I remember him going into Toronto all the time. And he'd go, "Hey, take it easy on us tonight. We're just a bunch of roller hockey players from Missouri." And then he'd go out and kick their ass. And listen, I'm from London, Ontario, for crying out loud. It was a wonderful thing. And so, but you know what? It all started with the skill development. And you know what? We still bring a lot of Europeans over to the National Hockey League. Skill guys. What's wrong with us North Americans? We always have to be the dummies that go retrieve the puck, and we're getting away from that. And we've certainly gotten away from it here in St. Louis and in the U.S. It was evidenced last weekend in Plymouth. And so anyways, I think that's where the game's headed. We got to be ahead of that curve and stay with it. There's no reason our guys can't handle those skill roles.
Question for Walt, not to get off topic, but how do you balance the fact that you're a competitive guy, your coaches are competitive, and you want to win? There are going to be times, I would imagine, that teaching this skill, sometimes you're going to lose. And a lot of parents, I think, and coaches focus too much on winning the hockey game, and that ends up taking the skill out, because to win, you have to sacrifice. Sometimes you're going to make a mistake if you're making a skill play, but how do you emphasize to the kids that it's okay to make a play? And sometimes we're going to lose, but in the big picture, 3-4 years, or even if you're talking about October to February, where you see the team going, how did you let them know that it's going to be okay if we lose some games along the way?
Well, first of all, the parents didn't say a word. They weren't going to say a word, but you know what? We had talented kids. The only way to learn is to learn from your mistakes. Now, if a kid is toe dragging the last guy back continually, then he's going to probably get a little talking to. But, we see, and I've played, I know where the game's going. I know people are paying a lot of money to have you teach their kid. And the way to do that is play the right way. Skill, if you got to lose a game, you lose a game. It's not about wins and losses. Now, as you get older, you'd want to win, but you learn from your mistakes, and that's the most important thing. You take the creativity away from the kid in a game, he's going to get sour, and he will not play. That's just the way it goes. There's ways of teaching them and correcting them, and you can do that in practice, but the day you take the creativity out of the game, Jammer, it's it's going to cost all of us here. We're all trying to make these kids better. That's what we do. I mean, that's what I like to do. I'm proud to be a part of the Jordan James coaching staff. We taught the kids the right way, and we got 10 of them probably still playing, whether it's Junior North American League, USHL, Ontario League, and college. So we did it by teaching the kids skill, and the kids are great. I mean, they're great kids. They make mistakes. They know. When you teach the kids the right way, they learn the game, and they know when they make a mistake, and who cares?
I had a conversation with Prongs in this past winter. And Chris has got 2 young guys playing as well, and I said something about, I don't understand. We just played a team, and it was like they played the same exact way the entire game. They were down, and then they got down a little more, and they were down 3, and they weren't. And he asked me the question. He goes, "Who the hell was that out there?" And I don't remember who it was we were playing. For sure, I'll offend somebody if I say it anyway, if I knew. But I said, "I don't know." I go, "I just don't understand." She goes, "I don't understand why you have a system with a young group of kids." I remember you saying, "What are they doing with systems and playing a zone?" I don't even remember, but you have a philosophy about that, about the young guys just playing.
Well, they have to, first off, in order to do skill, and to kind of touch on what Walt was saying, you have to be willing to sacrifice losses. If you're a coach and you're worried about your win-loss record, then you're probably in it for the wrong reason. The teaching moment is losing the game and understanding, teaching the kid how to play the game, how to make a mistake, but also how to learn from that mistake. And by developing that way, you may give up some wins early on in the season, but it's going to come back in the end, and you're going to see these kids start to really develop towards the latter part of the year if you stick with the same mantra and the same game plan day in, day out in practice. I don't know, I think it might have been a mite game or squirt game. Maybe it was a squirt game or something. I was just like, they're playing a box plus 1. They got a left wing lock. They got all this crap. I'm like, and these kids are just standing around on the ice. And it was, it was pretty disheartening. The kids weren't even moving out there. And the game now, you watch the NHL game, it's 100 miles an hour in every direction, and guys are moving all over the place. And even some of these, midget and bantam programs, these kids are pretty fast. And you'd have to find a lot of gray areas, PLC, to slow them down.
Just to piggyback off of what Kelly and Rob were talking about earlier, as far as how Basil wouldn't stand for his players yelling at the officials. We're only human, and there's coaches in the NHL that I would do anything for. Great people, great coaches, show us a ton of respect, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that they may get a break some nights over a coach that yells all the time. And we have a couple coaches in the league, and it's like cry wolf with them. And I completely tune them out, and they think that the more they yell, that I'm going to give them a power play, and I'll be honest, it goes the other way. And so just any advice that I can give you is just treat these kids with respect. They're learning, they're coming up just like your young players are. And if you show them respect and treat them like you would treat your own son or the players you're coaching, it's going to go a long ways with them, and you're going to hopefully build a relationship with them over the years and that season.
Chris mentioned learning through losing, and that's so imperative. Your coaches, your wins and losses, and we've got kids going in the draft and whatnot. That's all gravy. The impact you have as a coach. Gord Taylor, Phil McGuire, those are my coaches when I was 6 and 7 years old. I can roll those names off and think of them and picture them just like that, and the impact they had on me. And so, it's really, really important that you remember that. And they're going to learn lessons from you, the life lessons of winning and losing. And the rest of it's gravy. We take ourselves pretty seriously sometimes as coaches, and that's the competitive nature that we all have. But at the end of the day, they're very young, impressionable minds that we're dealing with, and you can't forget that.
I was real fortunate. Some of you that are around here know when we had the St. Louis Bandits here, I was one of the owners of the Bandits, and So we start out with John Cooper as our coach, and then we evolved into Jeff Brown, and we were able to play for the national trophy 5 years, I think, in a row, and we won 3 times, and it was so much fun to see the kids. I'm in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I phone this rink. I ask if there's any spare ice time. And the guy says, well, we have a camp going on right now. Come on in. We'll see what we can do. I come in. I look, and the guy looks at me, and he starts smiling. And I said, how are you, sir? I go, I was just wondering if I could get some ice. And he says, Kelly Chase? And I said, yeah. He said, my son played for you for the Bandits. He told me his name. I knew the kid. He burned one of my tractors in my yard and cost me $3,000. So little bastard. But, no, but one of the things that I can say is that I always admired and hired Coop and Brownie because completely different styles. I always tell Brownie, you couldn't play for you. You know, Brownie wouldn't break a sweat in an NHL playoff game, and yet, come on, guys, passion. You know, you're like, what? But he had a way to deliver things to make guys engage. John Cooper could talk to the Pope, the president, and a pimp, and he could have a good conversation with all 3 of them. That's Coop. But we had a coach. You played with him. We all had him as a guy I think is the best coach in the National Hockey League, and that's Joel Quenneville. The way he managed people was unbelievable. And to give you an indication, we've told this stories 1,000 times, but he sent a piece of paper around on our last road trip of the year because he wanted to know who was close to their bonuses. And he would try and get them their bonuses. So if you needed a goal for, $50,000, I needed a lot for 50, but if you needed a plus 10 one time. I finished one year plus 10, and it got me like 25 grand or something. He put me in the game. The last game of the year in Anaheim with the net pulled, put me on the ice. I got a plus 1, got to plus 10, got 25 grand. He's that type of guy. We had a situation in LA with one of our good friends that we lost, Pavel Demitra, where he needed a point for $500,000, and Scotty Young needed a goal for $300,000 bonus. And the last play of the game, Rob Blake on the other team kind of knew what the hell was going on, so he kind of backed off or pinched in, and Pavel went down on a breakaway. Literally could have crossed the line with the puck. And he instead pulled back and looked for Scotty Young, who was just, you can imagine, there's 300 grand on the line. He is beating guys just coming through the middle of the ice, and Pav laid that puck right in his wheelhouse, wide open net, no goalie. What was the kid's name?
Modry.
Yeah, that moron. Dives across, catches a piece of it in the air with his stick, and it goes just over the net. So it was an $800,000 turning point, of course. But the Laurie family, who they take a lot of knocks, we loved as owner or as players. They did everything for us, and Joel made them come down and watch the video. And he said, and when they walked out of there, they couldn't believe that a guy would be so unselfish to pass up $500,000 to do something for his teammate. But it's the way Quenneville, I think shaped all of us. And they gave Pav half his money. They gave Pav, Scotty didn't get the goal, he didn't get the goal. But Pavel, they knew clearly he could have just slid it over the line, and there was no one around him. So they gave him $250,000 because Joel Quenneville made a point of saying, if you want us to have credibility with our players, we need to do something here. And so, you guys have all had him. Peelsy as well, but Jammer, you won a cup with him. Any thoughts on any of your guys and the impressions he made?
Yeah, there's countless stories like that, but I think for me, it's his ability to evolve over time. You talked earlier, Rob, about how you can't coach by scaring guys anymore. I think I've seen the beginning of it and where it is now, and retiring 2013. The fact is, you do have to let the players know that you care. He has that uncanny ability to do that, and knowing his players so well helps him lean on the leadership group. But I think that he's evolved over time. That's why he's able to stay as current as he is, and he understands that you have to rest your best players. And in the NHL today, the guys that the game's so fast. I know Prongs used to play 30 minutes as a forward that's playing 24 minutes like you used to play Walt. The game's so fast that you have to rest. It was tough for guys like me because I needed to skate, but literally they hardly ever practice. And he puts that onus on the leadership group, and he's very fortunate that he has great players to do that, but I think he was ahead of the curve, and a lot of teams, I mean, I'm talking like 6 years ago, he was the one practicing less when more teams were pushing and pushing and pushing their players. I think Joel's evolved more than anybody else, but I think everything does go back to who he is as a person, and I think you can't fake that as a leader, you can't fake that as a coach. Your players will see through that. I think the most important thing is to be authentic, and I think that he's just that.
Walt, you had a great experience. I mean, you got along good with them, and
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what backside pressure was till I came to play for Joel Quinville. So I learned that
you didn't
pretty
know
quickly.
what back check was until you got here.
But no, he's a great guy. I mean, that's why it's important for players that were our age playing in the NHL, playing for guys like that, the kids that you guys are coaching. And, you know, you guys are obviously give up a lot of your own time and your own family to do what you do. And this is a wonderful weekend, and take it all in, meet somebody from, you know, across the country, you know, pick his brain a little bit. I think that's important as a coach. You know, you have USHL coaches here, managers here, a lot of resources, NHL coaches, American Hockey League coaches. Take the time, ask some questions, and just, you know, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it's important for USA Hockey. I'm proud to be a coach in USA Hockey, developing players, and you guys obviously are doing a great job, and, you know, I want to wish you guys all the best. And, you know, if we're around tonight, obviously can ask some questions too, but hopefully you guys enjoy your experience here in St. Louis.
Thanks a lot for having us tonight, you guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks again to Tim Peel, Jamal Mayers, Rob Ramage, Kelly Chase, Chris Pronger, and Big Walt. Good stuff, guys. And that concludes the formal part of our evening. Thank you for having me as your MC, and have a great weekend. Kelly's going to be back, I know, on the weekend, along with Chris Kerber, the radio play-by-play voice of the St. Louis Blues. And best of luck this weekend, and best of success next year with all your teams. Thank you very much for coming.